20 movies you probably didn't know were remakes. In the world of film, remakes are all the rage. Maybe it's our collective obsession with nostalgia or just a safe financial bet for movie studios. But remakes have always been a fixture in the world of film. Watch for 20 great films that you probably didn't know were remakes, some of which, like A Star Is Born, that has been remade multiple times throughout the years. Bedazzled, 2000. This film, directed by Harold Ramis and starring Brendan Fraser opposite Elizabeth Hurley, is a remake of a 1967 British film with the same name. The original Bedazzled starred Raquel Welch, and followed a slightly different plotline. Though both films involve a male protagonist is offered a slew of enticing wishes that come with unintended consequences. A Fistful of Dollars, 1964. One of the best films of the spaghetti western genre. Sergio Leone's A Fistful of Dollars is a loose remake of Japanese filmmaker Akira Kurosawa's Yojimbo, which was released just a few years earlier in 1961. Heat, 1995. Michael Mann's 1995 crime epic starring Al Pacino and Robert De Niro is actually a remake of an earlier Michael Mann project. Originally titled LA Takedown, the film was originally intended to be a television series before it was turned into a television film. And then eventually, a cult favorite, A Star Is Born, 2018. If you've only seen a version of A Star Is Born starring Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper, you might not be aware that this film has been made 4 different times. There's the 1937 original, a 1954 remake starring Judy Garland and James Mason, and a 1976 version featuring Chris Christopherson and Barbra Streisand in the lead roles. Ocean's 11, 2011. Everyone loves a heist film, so it's unsurprising that Ocean's 11 has been made more than once. The 1960 original starred 5 members of the legendary Rat Pack, including Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin. And while it wasn't exactly a critical success, it did inspire an excellent couple of remakes. Father of the Bride, 1991. Based originally on a 1949 Edward Streeter novel, Father of the Bride is a title that spawned an entire universe. The original, starring Elizabeth Taylor opposite Spencer Tracy, earned multiple Academy Award nods. And the 1991 remake with Steve Martin and Diane Keaton was so commercially successful that it spawned multiple sequels and spin-offs, including a 2022 remake, Scarface, 1983. Though pretty much everyone associates Scarface with Al Pacino's incredible performance as Tony Montana, a Cuban immigrant who rises to become a powerful drug kingpin. The film was loosely based on a 1929 novel inspired by Al Capone, and the 1932 Howard Hawks film that followed it, Ben-Hur, 1959. Even though the 1959 version of Ben-Hur, starring Charlton Heston, remains one of the most critically acclaimed films in film history, it's still a remake. The original was a 1907 short film that was adapted into a full-length silent feature in 1925, with Ramon Navarro in the titular role. The Italian Job, 2003. A remake of a 1969 British film starring Michael Caine. The 2003 production of The Italian Job boasts a slightly different plot, but the car chases in both films are worth watching. The Birdcage, 1996. Inspired by the classic Italian film L'Arcade aux Follies, The Birdcage actually began as a 1973 play about a gay couple running a drag club in a scenic French town, but there's no way the original is anywhere near as funny as The Birdcage, which features incredible comedic work from co-stars Robin Williams and Nathan Lane. The Longest Yard, 2005. This 2005 Adam Sandler film about a professional quarterback who finds himself in prison first found an audience in 1974, when Burt Reynolds starred in the leading role. There are also British and Egyptian remakes of the film, which indicates that this silly story clearly resonates. The Mummy, 1999. Nearly 9 decades separate the 1999 production of The Mummy, starring Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz. The original premiered in 1932, with Boris Karloff and Zita Johann in those same roles. Vanilla Sky, 2001. Cameron Crowe's 2011 sci-fi Chin Scratcher is inspired by Spanish filmmaker Alejandro Amenabar's Open Your Eyes, which also starred Penelope Cruz, who gave a critically acclaimed performance alongside Tom Cruise. Sheep by the Dozen, 2003. This feel-good 2003 film, starring Steve Martin and Queen Latifah, first appeared in 1950 under the same name. Both were inspired by a book, with, you guessed it, the same title, though the plots between all three different works are decidedly different. The Parent Trap, 1998. Before Lindsay Lohan stormed onto the scene with her acclaimed performance of both twins in The Parent Trap, Hayley Mills pulled off the same feat in 1961. Mills's performance was also praised by critics, and both films were major commercial successes. The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, 2013. This charming adventure flick, both the 2013 version starring Ben Stiller and the 1947 original with Danny Kaye, were inspired by James Thurber's short story that helped turn Walter Mitty into an essential archetype in the American canon. Victor/Victoria, 1982. Victor and Victoria, a 1933 German film about a woman who dresses in drag to pretend to be a female impersonator, has been remade multiple times throughout the decades. The first came in 1982, starring Julie Andrews, and later a 1995 Broadway musical produced by Andrews, and starring Liza Minnelli. 3:10 to Yuma, 2007. This acclaimed 2007 film set just after the American Civil War and starring Russell Crowe and Christian Bale, is widely considered to be one of the best remakes in film history. The original film, released in 1957, was inspired by a short story written by American author Elmore Leonard. The Nutty Professor, 1996. Eddie Murphy's wildly popular 1996 film The Nutty Professor was first released in 1963, with comedian Jerry Lewis in the leading role, and the story itself is inspired by a classic literary duo, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Little Shop of Horrors, 1986. Before Little Shop of Horrors was a cult favorite Broadway musical, it was a 1960 film by director Roger Corman. But there's no denying that the remake, with Rick Moranis in the leading role and a ton of catchy songs, is one of those rare films that manages to surpass the original.
Well, that's all, folks.
That's my line.
Step aside, babe. Let a star do this. That's all!
That's all, folks!